thank you so much for watching the forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent. And today we're going to be talking all about national wildlife, refuge parks and things, all the things I have no idea about. But we are here with Sean Cross, and he is the assistant manager of Modoc National Wildlife Refuge.
Have you ever heard of that before?
I know.
Modoc National Wildlife Refuge. We're in Redding. I'm not sure we've heard of it. Where is it, and how do you get there?
Well, it's located in Alturas, California. It's about 3 hours to the east of here. You basically take Highway 299 all the way to town, and we're right on the south edge of town.
Oh, wow. So what kind of things would you see there? I mean, is this something that people should just come and visit, or is it something that you're making a trip, like maybe you're just going to go hunt? What would draw people there?
Well, you can do both of those things. I mean, most of our visitors are just coming in for, say, wildlife watching and such.
Oh, okay.
A portion of the refuge does have a wildlife drive and viewing areas. The refuge is established for migratory birds, but we have other wildlife as well. There's deer and small animals and things as well.
Oh, wow.
But in the fall, we do open to migratory bird hunting, which would be waterfowl, and, ducks and geese, and then snipe.
Okay,
Ducks.
snipe. I thought snipe was a game that your friends played on you at camp in the summer when you went snipe hunting.
Oh my God.
But snipe really are a real bird.
Are
and
they?
I heard that story too when I was a kid
Yeah,
growing
at
up.
camp.
But
Yeah.
common snipe is a real bird that is huntable. They're very difficult to hunt, but people do it.
What type of bird? What is a snipe? Like how big
It's
is
like
it?
a little.
What is
They're
it?
a little tiny shorebird. I've tried to shoot them. I've never hit one, but
Have you tasted one?
I have not. I don't know anyone that's shot one. I don't think.
Oh really? Oh,
I see people
that's
try.
why
I guess
snipe.
that's where the idea of the ephemeral,
snipe
like,
hunting.
is not really real.
Yeah.
The snipe. That's
Correct.
funny. So, okay, you also have a reservoir up there, I understand. Have you, with all the rains this year, how has it affected you guys?
Yeah.
So this year, of course, obviously, like everyone knows, the last few years has been a fairly heavy drought. We did not get much beyond 25% capacity the last few years, but this year with the snowfall and the rain that we received, we're probably within 1.5 feet or so of the emergency spillway, but we managed for flood water, so we can, if something comes off the mountain, like a rain event or something, we can capture that without flooding the town.
Oh wow.
And then that all works in coordination with everyone downstream of us. Like if we turn too much water loose, that affects all the other reservoirs below us. So.
Right.
But this year we look really, really good. We're well over 100% of capacity.
So you're not going to have the Orville Dam issue
No.
with you guys?
We're nowhere near that big. It's a little tiny little tiny reservoir.
Okay.
wow.
Well,
But
still.
it is all managed for, we use the water to manage the wetlands on the rest of the refuge for waterfowl and shorebirds and the things that are dependent on those habitat types.
Now, how do you become a migratory bird refuge? Like, I mean,
Goodness.
how do the birds know to come there? Or
Oh, so refuges, that's a good question. It's not like you make the refuge and they show up.
I know that's why I'm
Right.
like, how do you? I mean, what is this?
So most refuges are a place that was already unique in the wildlife that was using that location, and then it would be like local citizens that felt it was important enough to become permanently protected. They'll petition the Congress or the president to turn that piece of land into protected permanently for wildlife. And it could be migratory birds like Modoc. There are coral reef refuges in the system in the Hawaiian Islands, the Florida Keys. There's Oklahoma bat caves for the endangered bats.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of refuges out there that the place was already unique. They just changed the designation to protect it.
So what made Modoc unique for these birds? I mean, what was it that draws the birds there?
Probably the most unique thing about it is one of the biggest nesting and rearing areas for greater sandhill cranes, which are endemic to California. And so the cranes winter down in around Sacramento area in that part of the valley, and then they fly out to Modoc Refuge, is one area that was established, Mal here in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
And there's some other small areas like in Idaho and Washington where small groups are at. And they all hatch and raise their young like they do on Modoc. We band ours, as many as we can. They get a set of colored bands on their legs.
Yeah.
And then they fly south and winter in Central California. There's only a few thousand of them left of greater sandhill cranes. Most of the ones people see are lessers, which there's like billions of them. And there's tons of those. They sound exactly the same, they're just bigger.
Oh, so the greater is just a larger bird.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay,
greater
and it's
lessers.
actually a different type.
Different
then,
species,
a
yeah.
different species. Like Sandhill Road in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
That
Probably
must
named
be
after 'em.
named after, yeah.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would guess
That's a
so.
long road too. That's so funny that you say that.
Yeah.
I've
Well, I was
been out
thinking
of
of
that road for a
Sandhill
while.
Crane, because I'm like, what's Sandhill? I knew, that word.
Well, the
Yes,
sandhills
road.
are from, Sandhills in Nebraska. That's what they're named after.
Oh.
Because the sandhills all come through that, like the majority of the lessers come through the Central Flyway.
Oh,
There's
they
a
do?
refuge there, actually, same thing, was established because, like, I can't remember, 80% of the sandhill population migrates to that one spot. There'll be millions of them there together.
In Nebraska?
It's impressive, yeah.
Wow.
Wow, impressive is one word.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Speaking of
Yeah.
impressive, so how do you end up? I mean, you know a lot about birds, and as you should, working on the refuge. But how did you end up working for a refuge? Like, how do you know that you have that interest and that's where you should
Ooh,
go?
boy.
Oh,
That's a good question.
that's a good
Okay.
question.
I'm just interested because
really
I mean,
good, yeah.
That's a good question.
It's a unique career path.
Yes, it is. It really is.
That's complicated and easy. One, I have a degree in wildlife biology.
Okay,
That's
well
the easy
that
part.
helps. Yeah.
I grew up actually on an Indian reservation in western Montana where my mom's a tribal member, and so outdoor activities were integral to my youth. And then I enlisted in the Army while I was in Iraq and realized that is not something I want to go through again. And what I really want to do with my life when I get out of there was, I had other ideas with my life, but I was over there and I was like, I want to be a wildlife biologist and get out of this place.
And that
do
was
something
before you had
different.
gone to school.
Absolutely.
Right?
I
And
used
so
my
you went
GI
back to
bill.
school.
Yeah,
Oh
used
my
my GI bill to go
gosh.
to school.
That's awesome.
And then ended up in refuges just kind of on a lucky whim. I applied for a position after working for my mom's tribe for a few years as a fisheries biologist, and got this cool opportunity, got picked up for the position, and that was like 13 years ago now. And
Wow.
I love it. Refuge system is fantastic.
So are you a federal employee?
I am a federal employee,
okay.
yes. I work for the President's office.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
We all do, all federal employees
Yes,
do.
yes.
And then are you under the Department of Interior, or what are the refuges under?
Yeah, National Wildlife Refuge System is under the Department of the Interior.
Okay.
It's in the same, like the Park Service is a sister agency to the refuge system, have a different purpose,
Right.
but very closely related and do a lot of work together. The refuge system's mission is wildlife first. So when a refuge is created, it's actually closed to the public to establish the habitats, get things in place until the wildlife populations are stable or considered, maybe they already are, and then we'll move forward to open to public use if it's appropriate. But it has to be wildlife compatible. So it has to be like wildlife viewing or photography or something
Right.
like that. We can't have like water skiing or jet skiing. That's not wildlife friendly.
Well, then how do you? I'm sorry, Christy. This is so far outside of my comfort
Yeah.
zone.
No,
it's just very interesting that that it's wildlife compatible. Excuse me, but then on top of that, you allow people to come in and hunt. I mean, how?
That's a complicated
I
piece
know.
of history.
It's very interesting because you have so many different types of birds, and then what if someone comes in and what happens if they get the wrong bird? Or does that never happen?
That does happen. Mostly, honestly, it happens with kids, though, that aren't familiar with their birds yet. Very rarely do you run into adult hunters that make those kind of mistakes. Sometimes, and purposely is extremely rare. Most American hunters are fairly ethical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conservation of wildlife species is directly the result of hunters purchasing licenses and the equipment to do it. And so they not only are they doing it for recreation, but they care very much about
Right.
the future of it too. So,
Right.
so they're
They wanna-
mostly cautious. We do run into some people that are not the most savory of individuals that you have to deal with, but
Right.
But
that's
it's
pretty
not
rare.
a year-round hunting. It's only seasonal, right?
Right, correct. The regulations and the seasons are established by the state for migratory birds anyways, within a time frame that's established by the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay.
Because for waterfowl in particular and other migratory birds, those are all based on an international treaty, the Migratory International Bird Treaty,
Okay.
and with Canada and Mexico and Russia. And so all those nations agree to when the time frames to hunt will be, and then it's up to in our country, it's up to the states to set their regulations and
Interesting.
hunting seasons.
So even though it's a federal treaty, it's state directed.
Within the time frame of the treaty, yes,
Yeah.
the agreements of the treaty.
Wow,
So like how many
that's so
birds
interesting.
can be hunted in each flyaway and such. The other countries, they do the same sort of thing, but of course they don't. They're a whole other nation, so they have
Right.
different
Right.
rules than us. But they still conform to the treaty. I mean, it's a real treaty, so.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
very interesting.
That's so interesting. What are some of the most, you mentioned the sandhill crane, what are some of the other birds, like if any of our viewers are birders, what
Sure.
kind of birds would they see?
We have a lot of shorebirds that come through the refuge. Not so much right now, but like in May, early June, we'll have tons of shorebirds headed for the Arctic. We have a lot of smaller passerine marsh nesting birds, wrens and such, because there's all kinds of waterfowl. There's around us, a plug for the National Forest around us, has incredible forest birds. That's one of the first things I did when I moved down here from Montana was go check out some of the neat, we have cool birding areas around us, not just up in Alturas, but even around Redding here. There's some amazing places that I've found. So, warblers and tons of hummingbirds, a lot of migratory things in the spring. The fall is a little more difficult. Things are headed south, but they're more difficult to ID,
Now, you had one bird that was pretty interesting, all the way from Africa, right?
Oh yeah. So we had a common crane. It's just, I laugh because it's unusual.
Yeah.
A few years ago we had a bird called a common crane, which is endemic to Africa. Showed up on the refuge, and at first I didn't believe the guy until he brought a picture of it. But and I guess so America understands with the things. There's a lot of movement with zoos and personal collections of living creatures around the United States. When a natural disaster occurs, like a hurricane or something like that, and it destroys the facility, those things escape and they get out into our environment. Well,
really interesting.
I'll give you one that probably everybody knows is happening is Eurasian collared doves, which has spread all over North America, and that's from an event like that.
Oh, wow.
And there's billions of them now. They're here in Redding, they're here in Alturas, they're back home in Montana where I grew
What
up.
do they look like? How would we know what
They
we're
kind of
seeing?
look like a gray pigeon with a black marker on their neck, and they have like a really, I don't know, not very exotic call, kind of a boring call.
And they're sturdy.
Yeah, they're much bigger
really
than
sturdy, big looking birds.
They are.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
really?
seen them.
our native mourning
town.
doves. I would probably walk outside right now and find one. But
What? Yeah.
The native one, a mourning dove, is much smaller. Kind of has that. Oh, well, I'm not going to try to make the call.
The
but
coo
it's-
is a pretty
that-
coo, isn't
it's
it?
Mourning like it's like in mourning.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a call. That's where they're named that. But the Eurasian collared doves are direct competition. Displace them from their nesting sites. Displace them over food.
Interesting.
So-
So the non-native, just like a plant, the
like a plant.
non-native is displacing the native,
The native, yeah.
animal.
A lot of issues like
bird.
that in wildlife in America. From aquatic species. Well, everybody probably has heard of zebra and quagga mussels doing terrible things to, this bird. There's all kinds of fish issues.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The
Lots
fish.
of
So what
things,
have you
yeah.
guys been dealt with in your refuge?
As far as invasives,
Yeah.
mostly we deal with invasive plants, affecting habitats that we try to control or reduce, like thistles.
Right.
Canadian thistle, which isn't from Canada, it's from Asia.
They call it Canadian thistles, but it's not from Canada.
Just like Kentucky bluegrass, it ain't from Kentucky either.
What?
But we have Scotch thistle issues, which is from Scotland.
You know what? I can't believe it, but we are completely out of time.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry. What is the best way to find information on the refuge?
We have a website and a Facebook page that gets updated twice a day pretty much for new photos and such.
Okay, so look at the Facebook for Modoc National Wildlife Refuge.
Correct.
All right, the first half flew by. I can't wait to come back for the second half, so hang in there. We'll be right back.
We're back with the second half of our show, and we are continuing with the theme of national parks. So today we are here with Amanda Sweeney and Kevin Sweeney, and they are
Married.
Married, of course. Married, and a ranger and the interpretive media specialist. Okay, that is a handful for just all of this. Married, and you guys have titles. Tell us what you guys do. 'cause
And they're
that is-
at Lassen Park.
and they're at Lassen
So
Park.
that's
thank
where
you.
they are located. So
I've been thrown off by this whole
marriage thing.
really
Sorry,
I know.
I shouldn't have butted that in there.
No. I was thrown off even before that. So this is going to be a fun interview.
Yeah.
You guys tell us a little bit about, number one, tell us what you actually call Lassen Park. Give us the full name, and then we'll jump right into some of those questions. So go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think it's completely natural to just call it Lassen.
Yeah.
We do get some competition with Lassen National Forest, which
Yes.
surrounds the park.
Yes.
So at the park, we try to call it for short Lassen Volcanic to differentiate between
Oh,
the National
okay.
Forest, but we often say Lassen. We just want to make sure that everyone recognizes we also have a forest.
Yeah.
That's very large.
That's good to know. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, all around the park is National Forest,
Okay.
which is wonderful.
But the national park is what is the national park designation. That's the big thing. Like if you go to see the Grand Canyon, that's a national park.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we are in great company by having Lassen right here in the North State.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Tell us about the Centennial. What was that all about?
Yeah, last year we celebrated 100 years, both of the National Park Service and of Lassen Volcanic National Park.
Oh.
It was a fun year. It was a busy year. We had a lot of events. One of the most fun things is we got to naturalize 104 brand new citizens to the United States within Lassen Park. So that was really special.
What was that about?
Yeah.
Well, we have a agreement with the the folks that are doing the naturalization ceremonies, and so they bring some of those new citizens up to the park, and we've done a few of them here and there, but last year was really big. We did it at the foot of Lassen Peak, and really special, really kind of fun to see the families come up, and to have folks naturalized in a national park was great. And that was just one of lots of Centennial events, and the best part about it was how much folks enjoyed the park. We saw a huge rise in visitation. Over 500,000 visitors came up. That was the first time since the 70s that we'd seen that many people.
Wow.
So it was a fun celebration. We had a great time.
Now, how many people generally come up to see the park in a year? What would be, that's 500,000 for that year, but how many would you normally see, and what types of activities do they generally do?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we've had very close to 500,000, but we've never quite broken that since the 70s. We've had about 400,000 each year, so still quite a lot. Nothing in comparison to Yosemite or even Crater Lake north of us. So Yosemite or Lassen's kind of one of those hidden gems.
It really is.
Yes, you can come on a fairly busy weekend and still get a camp spot, and that's one of the things people really like to do in the park is camp. We have 7 campgrounds. The biggest one is at Manzanita Lake, which is also the closest to Redding.
Yes.
So families really enjoy that campground because it's right next to the lake and trails. But there's 150 miles of trails to hike.
Oh, wow.
So that's certainly one of the most popular activities. People love to fish. People bring their boats. Non-motor boats are welcome.
Non-motor boats. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I was thinking, we have to take our boat up there.
No.
Okay.
Well, Manzanita Lake's pretty little.
Yes.
Speedboat on Manzanita Lake.
There, you'd realize.
But you could have a canoe, or you could have a kayak.
a
People
kayak or
just,
something.
it's
Okay.
really user friendly.
And you can rent them in the summer season, which is really fun.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just at
That's
Manzanita
nice.
Lake. But we have to mention, since there's 11 feet of snow at our Southwest Visitor Center
Yes.
right now, that winter activities are also really popular in the park. A lot of people think the park closes in the winter because the highway that goes through the park gets covered in snow, but that just means it's time for skiing and snowshoeing and sledding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot
So
of stuff
at
to be able
both
to do.
ends, people do those activities?
Yes, yeah. You can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so at Manzanita Lake we have a little bit less snow than over on the south side of the park at the Comyamani Visitor Center. But all throughout the winter we've got snowshoeing programs that go on, and we've got cross-country skiing and backcountry skiing.
Wow.
It's a whole lot of fun, and California winters are kind of easy winters. I mean, we get a lot of snow all at once, but then the snow clears out and you get these bright bluebird skies, and it's just pretty special to be up there in the wintertime too.
Right.
Wow. Now, how do you get up there?
Well, and that's the nice thing is Caltrans does a great job of keeping those roads cleared.
Yeah.
So even if there's a big storm going on, you always want to make sure you have your chains and all that good stuff when you're traveling through the mountains. But after that storm passes, the roads clear out and
pretty
dry up,
quickly.
and yeah,
Okay.
it's not too bad. I know that some folks are a little intimidated to drive up to the
That's
mountains
why
in the
I
wintertime.
asked. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like if you were to drive up today, it'd be pretty easy to go up and
Yeah,
get to the
today's
park.
looking like it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, people forget about it. I think because Mount Shasta is so, big with
Prominent.
their advertising and all that stuff, like you actually forget that there's Lassen Park to go
So
to.
what skill, you mentioned the trails, what's the skill level that you what kind of how good do you have to be to hike on some of your trails?
Well, you know, you can go all from one end of the spectrum to the other. We've got accessible trails for folks that want to take a short little
that's
walk.
Nice.
The devastated area is great for that. You can learn about the eruptions from 1915 and 1916 on that trail, all the way to, you know, middle of the winter backcountry trips to camp at the base of Lassen in the middle of snowstorms and that sort of thing. So
That sounds exciting.
and then a lot of stuff in between there too. So
Now,
there's
are
a lot
those
of easy
ranger
ones.
led, or are those just people coming in and using the park on their own?
A little bit of both. We have, we do have ranger-led programs in the wintertime. The snowshoe programs are really fun, especially for folks that have never gone snowshoeing before.
Right.
So we offer those in the winter, and then in the summertime we have some ranger-led activities, talks, walks, and that sort of thing. And then the great part about Lassen is you're free to explore. Go out and get on a trail and head out wherever you want to go.
Now, okay, so I heard the ranger led. What types of things do you guys do for kids? Like if I wanted my kids to come up, are there things that they can do? I mean, I know they can go on the trails and things, but I mean, what types of ranger led things would they be able to do?
Absolutely. Yeah, ranger-led activities are a great way to introduce your kids to the outdoors and to Lassen National Park, Volcanic National Park, of course. There are junior ranger programs. We actually have a booklet too that they can pick up at any of the visitor centers when they come into the park, and that gives them some ideas of activities to do within the park, and it gives them kind of some questions to answer. As Kevin mentioned, the Devastated Trail is a great place they can hike that's really easy, especially for young kids, and they can learn at the same time. We also have a lot of events that happen through the summer that are a great time to bring kids up for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
One of them I'll let Kevin get into here in a second, happens every August. But we also have something called the Reach Higher Trail Challenge, which I actually kicked off, so I like to talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about it. That's
But all it is actually it's a brochure, and it talks about different types of hikes you can take in the park. And we have a little hiking guide that helps people pick one that's right for their level, as you mentioned, if you're new or you're more advanced. And it really just encourages people to hike a few more trails than maybe they might. And a lot of times people will bring their kids up and just hike one, and you can get a free bandana if you hike 3 trails in the park. So it could be, you know, the half-mile accessible trail, or it could be the hike to Lassen Peak. But it kind of gives people a little bit of a challenge to get out and learn a little more, even if it's on a ranger-led hike.
How is that trail that goes up to the peak now after the tragedy a couple years ago, and it was closed for a while, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, and now, and has it reopened? I mean, what's the status with that?
It has reopened, and it's a fantastic trail. It's beautiful. Our trail crew has done just tremendous work on that trail. I joke that they stopped short of putting an escalator on it.
Oh, really? Oh, it's fancy then.
A lot of folks
It was
have-
pretty basic before.
And it's
Because
still,
I hiked it before.
it's still a rough, rugged trail on a volcano, and that certainly is an aspect of it. But we had a lot of visitors who had hiked that trail a lot of times, and they came back down after the rehab had been done on it, and they said, you know, this is the first time I've done it where my knees haven't been aching as bad as they normally have. So it's a lot.
Okay.
It's still a hard hike. I don't want to downplay hiking up the side of a volcano, but it's a bit easier than it was before.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I want to do that midnight or the moonrise hike.
Yeah.
In the summer. Ashley, I think you would love it. And I think some of our viewers would love it. They've probably done it.
Well,
where
let's
you
see
go
it.
up at night and you watch the full moon rise, and it lights up the whole valley. I mean, it's magical. Yeah.
I might be interested in something like that, but I would want to know what type of wildlife is out there. What type of wildlife
didn't see
is
anything.
at your? Well, I mean, like, what's out? I just want to know, right? I mean, you go to Whiskey Town, you might run into a bear, which
that's true.
So, okay, what type of wildlife do you have?
Well, I should say that if you're hiking Lassen on a full moon, you're probably not going to run into a whole lot because there's going to be a lot of people around there that are going to keep those critters away from. The great thing about wildlife at Lassen is it's still pretty wild, and it keeps its distance from people. But we do have bears, we do have mountain lions, we've got coyotes, bobcat. But I'd say you're pretty lucky if you get to see one of those because
you might get lucky enough to see a pika, which lives on Lassen Peak.
What is a pika?
A pika is a really small relative of the rabbit that lives in the rock fields up on Lassen Peak. One of the few animals that can live up there because there's very little places. Yeah, it's just rock.
Yeah.
But they actually are an indicator of climate change, which is wonderful because they're heat intolerant. They don't like the heat. So Lassen's a great place for them to live. And they like to burrow in those rocks. You might hear them squeak when you hike. A lot of people hear them much more than they see them.
Oh, that's
how
really
neat.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're kind of wrapping up. We have like a minute left, but I wanted to ask about the different variety of land forms. And you've got the volcano, and you've got the stinky place. What's that? What is
Sulfur Works and Bump as Hell.
You can walk through Bump as Hell, right? And then what other kind of land forms are there in Lassen Park?
Well, like you mentioned, we've got all 4 types of volcanoes found throughout the world within the park, which is pretty fantastic. We've got those wonderful stinky pits, or Sulfur Works and Bump as Hell. And there's also just a lot of really great trails that lead throughout alpine areas and wildflowers throughout the summer and spring. So you've really got it all at Lassen. It's pretty fantastic. You can explore a lot.
So, I mean, you're like less than an hour door to door if you're in Reading, and if you're down Chico, it's really short coming up the back way. Right?
It's your backyard national park.
What's the best way people can get more information?
The best place to go is our website, which is nps.gov/Lavo, L-A-V-O, or just Google Lassen Volcanic National Park. Probably the fastest way.
Typical government.
Remember all those letters.
I know.
You
Google
did a good
it.
job.
Oh, you guys, thanks for coming on. You did a great job as a married couple on your first interview together.
I know. Thank you very
We
much.
loved it. What a fun day today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Ashley and I loved having you watch, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time right here on the Forum.